Dramatic and chilling new videos have surfaced of the exact moment that Air India 171 crashed. We know now that it crashed approximately 32 seconds after takeoff. This in a 24-hour day that has brought at least two or three additional flight scares, including a Chennai bound British Airways flight that had to turn back after a flap issue, and a Saudia airline aircraft, a Hajj aircraft that actually faced a smoke scare on landing in Lucknow, apart from an Air India flight headed for Hong Kong that also had to turn back. What actually is happening? Is this normal, natural for a post crash scenario where everything feels terribly magnified and no pilot is going to take even the slightest chance, which many would argue is as it should be? Or is Boeing in particular now under scrutiny and on the mat as the government talks about an extended surveillance of the 787 fleet in India? I'm Barkha Dutt. You're with the Mojo Story. On the program today, we look at dramatic new videos that capture the full horror of what happened as AI 171 crashed in Ahmedabad 32 seconds after takeoff. You can see in these videos clouds, mountains of smoke really over the Ahmedabad skyline. You can see the absolute chaos inside the BJ Medical College on the ground. You were seeing those images there as parts of the plane basically came whizzing in through the walls. There are many questions to ask about why this happened and how do we stop it from happening again. But amid the more disturbing aspects of the public discourse that has followed this crash has been the alacrity in sections of commentary to blame pilots who are not even alive to defend themselves. These are the images of grief and devastation at the DNA center in Ahmedabad, where families are still waiting to identify the dead. Among those who have not been able to be identified, we are told, are many members of the cabin crew of Air India 171. Captain Sumit Sabharwal's 85-year-old father was waiting today for his body to come home, but even that, the last rites for the captain have not taken place yet. Meanwhile, a TikTok star, Captain Steve, who was platformed by several TV channels and took on and smeared really the pilots, has retracted his statement as new videos show that the rat was deployed seconds after Air India 171 took off. And Captain Steve has, in the light of this, retracted his statement. So there's a lot to talk about. A lot has happened. As I mentioned, in the last 24 hours alone, a British Airways 787 Chennai bound aircraft has actually turned back. An Air India flight headed for Hong Kong has turned back, and a Saudi Airlines aircraft, a Hajj aircraft in Lucknow, faced a smoke scare. You can see that in the images on your screen. Let me introduce our guests on the program today as we try and make sense of all that has happened without causing unnecessary panic in the flying public. That is also important. I want to introduce on the show Captain Randhwa, who's the president of the FIP. Welcome to the program, sir. Also joining us is a Group Captain Ajay Ahlawat, an Indian Air Force veteran. Welcome to the program, sir. And also joining us is Captain Mohan Ranganathan, who has been a former instructor on the Boeing 737. Welcome everybody to the program. I want to play out one video that we have. It's an enhanced video that many have looked at and said that this actually proves that the RAT, which is the Ram Air Turbine, was deployed, is a dual engine failure, a dual engine out now the most likely theory, or is it too early to say? Let's take a look at this video and then begin our conversation. All right, I want to start with Captain Randhawa, if I may. Captain Randhawa, a lot has happened in the last 3 days, and the most heartbreaking, of course, is the fact that the loss of life and the kind of almost venal tendency by some to blame the pilots. This even as an 85-year-old father waits for his son's body to come home. It now seems from the new video evidence available, you all are the experts, that the Ram air turbine known as the Rat was deployed seconds after takeoff, pointing more and more to a dual engine out, which is described as a one in a million sort of possibility. How do you look at what has happened in the public discourse since then? And I want you to juxtapose it with the BA 787 having to turn back. It was headed for Chennai and it turned back because of a flap issue, as well as an Air India 787 headed for Hong Kong, as well as what's happened with the Saudia airline. I'm not sure of which aircraft that was. Captain Randhwa, I'll start with you.
See, Barkha, first and foremost, this is the most unfortunate accident of Air India, which has occurred after 1978, after Emperor Ashoka. This is the second accident of Air India on the wide body, which has happened in the last 47 years. It is really a very, very sad day for the airline. Now, we have been trying to contemplate of the crash, and we've been doing a lot of brainstorming after seeing the video, and various things were ruled out as the time passed. The bird it was ruled out because they saw no birds on the runway. Contamination was another point which could be there, but now, what comes to light is that after the passenger who's got saved, he is also given his bit of some transcript that there was flickering of lights and he heard a noise. Now, there are a few things which come to mind that now there is a decision speed V1. Now, before the decision speed, if any malfunction occurs in the engine or other control parts or any other thing, the pilot rejects the takeoff, and in the remaining length of the runway, the aircraft can stop. Beyond the decision speed V1, if any malfunction occurs, then the pilot takes off because the aircraft cannot be stopped in the balance of the runway. Now, there are two things which could have happened. One is that the malfunction there is an electronic engine control in the aircraft. So, either there is some sort of malfunction which has occurred after V1, which has started causing power interruption, and by the time pilot had no time, so he has to take a decision to take off because it was beyond V1. Now, as soon as it's taken off, there is a power transfer which takes place from ground mode. It goes to air mode. And seems to be power interruption because the passenger said that there was some light flickering he's seen in the aircraft. So point number one is, so moment that happens, so when there is a malfunction in this unit and this gets the power source from permanent magnetic alternators. So when there is interruption in power, they could have interrupted the fuel supply to the engines, and maybe that it has caused both the engines to flame out. A lot of reporters have been saying that this aircraft has gained a height of 625 feet and all that. I don't think so. This aircraft gained a height more than 250 feet because 4 seconds have passed from the time it's rolled till the time it's crashed. So when there is a power interruption and when the dual engines have failed, because the engine, this electronic engine control also controls, it is controlled by the throttle levers. So once both the engines are flamed out, then the rat will deploy because this ram air turbine is basically, it supplies the hydraulics, the electrics to the aircraft. Once all the three hydraulics have failed, the rat will be deployed. In case there is total electrical failure, rat will be deployed. Both engine failure, rat will be deployed. Now, this theory that if you closely look at, there seems to be rat deployed, and then I have heard a lot of people saying that they heard a noise coming from the engines. Now, that
Mm.
noise would be of the rat, because the rat, the noise will be something like a propeller. Some propeller is there because the rat has got a propeller. So it's not the engines. The engines have wound down.
So
And
can I ask you something? Can I ask you something?
give me 30 seconds more. And
Okay.
ultimately, what has led to in this condition, the aircraft has stalled. And you see that right from the takeoff onwards, the attitude of the aircraft is very, very shallow. It's not steep. It should be about 15 degrees up, but it is very shallow. I don't think so. The rate of climb was more than 800,000 feet per minute. So the attitude was very shallow. So that means that the engines have started failing after takeoff. And
Can I ask you something? And before I go to Captain Ranganathan and
yes.
group and Group Captain Ahlawat, if the engines are failing to produce power or they're failing, how is the takeoff looking normal? One of the things that have been pointed out is that the aircraft goes right till the end of the runway before it takes off, right? It uses the entire stretch of the runway before it takes off. Can you reconcile the normal takeoff with the dual engine failure?
See, again, with dual engine failure, the engines have not failed at the time when the aircraft is unsticking. The engines will take time to say. As I told you that this malfunction started after V1. He must have may
Okay.
have started seeing the malfunction taking place in the on the engines, and
Hmm.
he is in a situation of go
Mhm.
because of after V1, and now he's taken off. And when the interruption in the power supply has occurred after he has taken off, he's left the ground.
Yeah.
That is the time that the engines have started, because it will take engines to start winding down, and how slow they wind down, that the DFDR will be clearly, it will be able to tell us.
Okay, let me open this up now. Let me come to Mohan Ranganathan. Captain Mohan Ranganathan, the fact is that everybody has offered a theory, but some theories now seem to be slowly getting ruled out. Bird hit, pilot error, at least in terms of configuration. And again, at least I have been quite disturbed with some of the sweeping generalizations about pilots who are not alive to defend themselves. What is your take? Given what we know right now, what are you prepared to rule out, and what do you think is most likely, or do we not know enough yet?
Now, to start with, one of the first aberrations was the thing about the flaps. And there's an image which was sent to me this morning. They have not secured the site of the crash. And you have an image of a couple of police security people and two other gents standing on the wing of the aircraft. And you can see the flaps very clearly there. So you don't need a video of a low resolution camera to tell you that the flaps were retracted and wrongly selected. That's all rubbish. So that is one. The second most important thing for me is the statement which is being, like you had also mentioned, it used the entire length of the runway before it lifted off. So it is not a normal situation. Why does it take entire length? Either the wrong temperature has been entered in the flight management computer and the whole performance data gets affected, or it's a case of overloading of aircraft. Now, it's quite likely that and everybody knows that people who travel out of Ahmedabad have told me that they're very, very liberal with hand baggage. It's supposed to be 7 kilos. He said majority of the passengers will be carrying not less than 20 kilos. So if you're looking at, say, at least 200 passengers with 10 kilos extra, that's 2 tons extra. So that makes a world of difference on your takeoff run. At see, the META shows a temperature of 37 degrees, but the meteorologist I respect, who I know, he said as per his readout, it was 42 degrees. So you got very high temperature, and positively there'll be overloading of the aircraft. So that was the reason why the takeoff run was so long. And the other thing, that CCTV video, which was
Yeah, the 32 seconds one. The 32 seconds one. Yeah,
yeah.
we can
See,
turn to that. Yeah.
Yeah, the 32 seconds is not from the start of the takeoff. It was when the camera angle was visible for us. Now, if you go into that from the beginning, that you can see, there's a point where you can see the aircraft nose just coming up. It on the video that I had, it comes to about 19 seconds there. Look from the 19 second and freeze it, and I'll explain to you.
Okay, we'll freeze. Just hold it. Let's hold it at the 19 second, if we can.
19 second here, it's gone up. Just where you see the nose appearing.
Okay, all right. You tell us when. If you can see the video, you tell us when to hold it. Please play it, Ria. Please play it. Just as the nose appears, hold it.
Yeah.
There. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Now, if you go 1 second, slowly go one at a time. This is where he starts rotating. It appears normal. Okay. Now take. Now, as he lifts off, you can see the nose swinging to the right. That is where he's lost one engine. And if you go another second, you will see a cloud of dust covering the aircraft completely. So what I suspect is if he has gone to the end of the runway and he's rotating there to lift off, it's quite like when you see the huge amount of dust which is covering the aircraft, it looks like he could have picked up debris from beyond the end of the runway or just at the end of the runway, which could have caused the damage.
So I want to just make sure I understand what you're saying. If we can go back a few frames, you're actually saying that as the nose of the plane emerges, you believe that the way it's swerving suggests one engine out at the point of takeoff. At the point of takeoff?
Just after takeoff, just after liftoff. Yeah.
At the point of lift, just after liftoff.
And this is probably the end of the runway because he's taken the whole runway on the takeoff run.
Yeah.
And after that, you just see a couple of seconds later, the whole aircraft will be covered in a cloud of dust.
Yeah.
And if you go another 2 seconds, you can still see a lot of dust being kicked off from the left engine, which means only the right engine is gone at that point.
Yeah.
And you can see the left engine is still delivering thrust. You can see the cloud of dust being blown by the wind, which is from the right.
Yeah.
And, up to that point, the nose is shallow. And beyond that, you can see the nose is lifting. When you see the second set of dust from the left engine.
What is the dust? What does the dust tell us? Explain the dust. What does that tell us?
The exhaust from the engine is blowing the dust from the runway overrun area. And before that, it could have picked up the dust at the end of the runway. And it could be a foreign object damage, like what happened to the Concorde in Paris.
Right.
So that might have caused the second engine also to flame out. And suddenly you will find the nose going up a lot. You see, a lot of pilots tend to use the stab trim to relieve the pressure. That is why the sudden nose up angle, which is very steep. And all Boeing aircrafts, there is a design feature that it flies entrance speed. So if they have used the stab trim, it'll seek that interim speed. That's why it goes up. And I disagree with Captain Randhawa about the height. It is established by the radar thing. It was 625 feet, which is 400 feet above ground. That is where you will see the aircraft.
So I have a question. I'm sorry, I have a question, and then I'll get Group Captain to respond. If I'm going to summarize you correctly, and I'm going to ask the video to be taken back a few frames because I want to do this properly, you basically start by saying the plane uses the full length of the runway to take off, which is not typical. The reasons could this be high ambient temperature, it's summer, as well as overloading. So, which means the plane needs more fuel, more energy to take off because it's overloaded with heat and too many bags and people. Then you say the CCTV appears to show, that's the CCTV video, that one engine is lost right after liftoff.
Yeah.
And then you say that as the plane moves on one engine lost right after takeoff, it is might be picking up debris slash dust slash foreign objects from the end of the runway that could have caused damage to its second engine. Am I summarizing you? Am I summarizing you accurately?
Yeah.
That doesn't tell us why the first engine failed, though.
First engine could have been a normal engine failure, and these aircrafts are certified to climb out on one engine. Not a problem at all. Right. Even if an overloaded, even a 2-ton overload, it can. It's just that the gradient will be shallower. But when you see the amount of dust which is there in the first rotation, it is very, very steep. I mean, the whole lot of dust. That's possible if you had lifted off just at the end of the runway, where in the overrun area, there could be a lot of debris. So I don't think it is the dual engine failures due to a power loss. But when both the engines fail, definitely the rat would have deployed. But the thud that the passengers also reported that they heard a thud after the takeoff. Now, that could be one of the debris being picked up. And that would have been what we call a startle effect. Maybe in that startle effect, they've forgotten to take the landing gear up. And the drag from the landing gear is very severe, these aircrafts. So that is why the rate of climb is much lower with no power. And he stalled it from 400 feet above ground onto the building. That is the way I read it, with limited information.
But I wanted to add something.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, and then Group Captain's been waiting. So briefly, Captain Randhawa. Yeah.
There has been a problem with the engines because I've been flying 777 so many times through that airfield, and 787 is quite similar. At this weight of 241 passengers and with cargo, it was not at max takeoff weight. No way the aircraft should have gone to such a length, should have used so much of length of the runway and almost taking off at the end. That means there was some malfunctioning of the engines taking place, because he will rotate only at the rotation speed. He will not rotate any other speed. And why should he be so low over the overshoot area that the debris has been picked up?
Right. Okay. Yeah, I get your question. That why, if he's picking up the debris, that means he's not rising to that 600 feet, is what you're saying. Got it. Let's bring in Group Captain. I'm sure Captain Ranganathan will respond to that. Maybe Group Captain has a completely third perspective. We've heard two differing perspectives on this program. Either way, I think what we're all trying to decode is the planes are built to survive on one engine going out. It's when two engines go out that everything gets complicated. Captain Ranganathan is flagging things that we do need to talk about. Why, are there open, clean spaces around our airports? And that's something we have to come to, and we will. But you've heard two perspectives. Where do you weigh in on these two perspectives, or do you have one of your own?
Good evening, Barkha, and greetings to my fellow panelists, two distinguished gentlemen with years and years of experience in aviation. We did speak about 2 days ago, and I did mention it's not good to speculate. On that day, it was out of respect for the departed, because a terrible tragedy had stuck and a lot of people had lost their life.
Yeah,
I would still say that because by now we have the DFDR as well as CVR. Certain amount of speculation is necessary because you want to make
Yeah.
sure that there is no critical flaw in either the process, the procedure, or the equipment, so that you can quickly inform everybody else operating the same type and fix it.
Yeah.
I think the time of speculation is over now. By now, we should have gotten something preliminary so that we can rule out and kind of remove this fog of information around the equipment. If the equipment is safe, that is the type of aircraft, then people should continue to fly it without any concern. Having said that, what do I say? I mean, there is one thing which is certain, that the undercarriage or the landing gear has not gone up. Whether it was single engine failure after V1 or after rotation, or as
But if there's no
the
power, if there's no power, I'm sorry again if this is not a smart question. I may be wrong, but if power is out, if there's no thrust being generated by the engines, can the landing gear still go up?
See, these aeroplanes come with a lot of redundancies. There is left hydraulic system, right hydraulic system, center hydraulic system, and then the propeller moves and produce certain hydraulic power. The hydraulics don't drop to zero immediately. And now I am venturing in the area where I do not wish to hazard a guess actually what exactly happened. Possibility of gear not going up despite them trying do exist, and the possibility of them quickly or completely forgetting about it also exists. Therefore, in my opinion, it is critical, in fact, very important that we know what happened, so that public's confidence in air travel can be restored quickly. If there's a flaw with the equipment, then the equipment needs to be grounded and fixed. If there is flaw with our training, that needs to fix. So that information must come out quickly. That is my very narrow point. On the possible causes, the two captains have spoken. Either of them could be correct, both of them could be wrong. I do not wish to go there.
Right. I want to just play out. We've been talking about the survivor. I don't know if this is the account that both captains have referenced, but let's just listen to the sole survivor. This in itself is I don't know, is what miracles are made of. It's still not clear at what point he jumps out of the plane. It's also confusing. But he has spoken about a thud noise and seeing greenish lights flickering. Let's listen in. I'm not sure if that account is in this statement, but let's listen in.
I can't explain. Everything happened in my eye. I can't.
How did you manage to escape?
I just.
Did you pull the emergency doors?
No. Emergency door is broken.
Yeah.
My seat is broken.
Yeah.
Then I see the page little bit.
Yeah.
Then I will try to come out.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why.
So, did the aircraft catch fire before you came out?
Yes.
Okay.
A little bit fire. After me, I'm out. Then blast.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah, he doesn't mention the thud and the lights here. Maybe we can pull out another statement, but he says little bit fire and then I jumped out. So I don't know. I want to come back to the question, Captain Ranganathan, that group captain has raised about there's a fog of concern around the equipment. He means the fleet itself. British Airways, a 787, turned back with also citing issues with the flap. I'm just going to play up that video and then come right back to all of you. Let's take a look. So again, I'm not sure. I'm not an expert. I don't know what this tells us. Captain Ranganathan, it's back to you. Captain Randhwa has made the point on your theory that why was the plane shallow enough to pick up debris from the end of the runway if it actually rose to its barometric altitude of more than 600 feet? That's one question. Second, group captain's question, the sort of concerns now around the 787. Look, this is not an Air India thing. 787 is used by airlines across the world. The British Airways flight that turned back was also a 787, right? So just want to bring you in on everything that's been happening in the last few hours. Saudia, British Airways, another Air India flight headed for Hong Kong turning back. Is this everybody being nervous, anxious? Or is there something else we need to be talking about here?
I think it is just nervous. It's a coincidence that 3 flights, and
Yeah,
it's in 4 days, not on the
yeah,
same day. It is 4 different
yeah,
days.
yeah,
So it is not. And this aircraft has been flying for more than 12 years.
yeah.
Airlines all over the world are using them. It is one of the very popular aircraft,
Yeah.
and it is being considered a very safe aircraft, except for the initial glitches. So, with one fatal crash, you cannot say that it was a airline issue or aircraft issue. But for the electrical problem, I don't know whether you're aware that some years back, when they had the problem with the battery, that when they shut
Mm-hmm.
it down, see the
Yes.
habit of shutting down the power during maintenance in the night. When they restarted, there were software glitches.
Mm-hmm.
And airlines had complained, and Boeing did a test, and they found that even with continuous running of the battery for 400 hours, it didn't give a problem. And
Mm-hmm.
FAA came out with a airworthiness directive that you must do a full shutdown of power every 120 days. And because after 455 days, it automatically shuts down the power, the generator control unit.
Mm-hmm.
So they said within every 4 months, you'll definitely have a maintenance check so you can power down the aircraft and do it. Now, my worry, like if all these electrical problems have been there on the 787 with Air India, you see, I've come across several issues where Air India applies for a dispensation or waiver, just like they've done for FTTL. Now, if they've got a waiver or in the maintenance, they've forgotten to do the engine shutdown, then this kind of a power shutdown can shut the entire power for the whole aircraft. Now, that is a possibility, a remote possibility. But looking at that video and the way that if the engine was not developing full thrust, losing one engine, the aircraft is not going to swing the way it did.
Do you want to answer Captain Randhawa's point that if the plane was really lifting off to 600 feet, it should not have? Sorry, if yeah, you said it lifted to 600 feet, which is what the radar shows, barometric
That
altitude of
600 barometric, which is
yeah.
200 feet is the elevation of Ahmedabad, so it has risen only to 425 feet. It is not
Okay.
600 is the indicated altitude, but elevation of Ahmedabad is 200 feet. So it has climbed to 400 feet. And if you look at the initial thing after the engine loss, and that is where in fact, I sent you what I had done, a screen grab. I sent it to Ria
Oh,
just now.
let her pull it up. Ria, can you pull it up? Yeah.
You
As
can
she's
see I
pulling,
did it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
did it frame by frame, so it'll be easy for you to understand.
Right. We'll have that come up. Just as it's coming up, let me bring in the other two while it's coming up. Captain Randhawa, please go ahead, sir. You have one disagreement that how did this debris get picked up to knock out the second engine if the aircraft was really gaining height, right? But
Yes,
you
yes.
also believe that it didn't really gain height. It didn't go up very high, right? It was at quite a shallow height. Do you believe that because a dual engine out is called a 1 in a million probability. So Captain Ranganathan seems to believe that one engine could have been something that happens, and the second engine could be debris, foreign object, dust from the runway. Do you
So
agree with that?
no, I don't agree because the ECs, which if there is a power interruption, then it is going to affect both the engines. Okay, so one engine may have flamed out at the unstick speed, and which has caused the aircraft to go slightly to the right, and then subsequently the other engine has flamed out. Debris can be a condition which has caused the malfunction of the second engine, but it has taken time because with debris, what will happen is it will seize the engine, and the aircraft would have gone down much faster. So I do not agree with him. Secondly, I do not agree with him that the aircraft was overloaded. Now we're talking about 241 passengers, plus he's saying that if there was 10 kg of overweight baggage, these baggages are normally carried by the Gulf passengers, and at the gate check, the passengers their hand baggage is weighed, especially in Air India Express. They're very strict in the Gulf. So it was not an overload at all. There was, I'm very sure that there was a malfunction in the electrical system, and which has caused the EECs to malfunction, and it has caused the fuel supply. It started affecting the fuel supply to the engines, and that has caused this problem. And if what you also rightly said, I also heard that this passenger had made a statement that flickering of lights,
Yeah.
that will happen with the power interruption.
But what would cause this power interruption? Let's go with your theory. Let's build on your theory. One second, sir. Let me just try and understand.
Yeah, please.
You are saying that in your estimation, most likely this is a malfunction in the electrical system, right? So
Yes.
I want you to tell me what are the causes. Let's build on your theory for your hypothesis. What would cause that? In what circumstances would that happen?
See, in the circumstances, firstly, this aircraft is on ground mode, which we call ground mode. Now, moment the aircraft gets airborne, so it gets into the air mode. Now, when it gets into the air mode, there is a power transfer changeover. So at that time, if you see that this person who survived, he's made a statement that after getting airborne, the light started flickering. Why did that happen? That is a clear indication that we are going by an eyewitness now.
Yeah.
That will happen. Ultimately, the correct thing will come out only in the DFDR. We are all speculating over here, but the right thing will come out in the DFDR. That what
So,
actually
so,
happened.
so the survivor's statement of this loud noise and the flickering lights, what does that tell us?
The loud noise he must have heard is maybe when the rat is deployed, or when the impact has taken place. How he has fallen. You see where his seat is located in 11A. That is the main spar of the aircraft. That is how he survived, because there where the impact has taken place, that means his seat was there. So that was one. He could have come out with more statement, because his statement will mean a lot. But ultimately, when you come to the analysis of the DFDR and the CVR, everything will come very clear what has happened, because both have been recovered, and the DFDR will clearly tell you that exactly what happened. So all of us are speculating at present that this could have happened, that could have happened, but rightly so, we should wait for some time.
Let me bring in group captain now. So we have kind of two differing scenarios. The outcome is the same. Both engines, it's a double engine out scenario, because the aircraft, as everybody has explained, has a redundancy to be able to function on one engine. But what I'm able to understand is that the aircraft is not able to rise, which seems to what you all call no thrust, and a layperson would say it doesn't have the power to lift itself, right? I think what we're disagreeing on is how the aircraft got there. Is the takeoff normal? If the takeoff is normal, what happens suddenly? What can cause one engine? If Captain Ranganathan's theory is correct, why does one engine go out right after liftoff? If the second engine is outed by debris, Captain Randhwa doesn't agree. If Captain Randhawa's theory is correct that there's a power interruption, what causes that? Group captain?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
There are three things that I've heard. One, we are stressing too much on the survivor's statement. You know, he's literally touched the gates of heaven, have come back. How he survived is something nobody knows for sure.
Yeah.
He's in a shock, and he will probably need counseling a little later. So I
Yeah.
would rather invest my pension on, if I was to bet on the actual readout from the CVR and the DFDRs, etc. However, since we're doing this program and we are discussing as professionals, we should discuss what could possibly go wrong. And the two distinguished gentlemen before me have given two differing theories. I have disagreement with both. One, the electrical failure theory. The modern civil aeroplanes they typically don't have a single point of failure. That the bus single point of failure they don't have. It will be a extremely critical flaw in the design that if the bus or one of the bus out of 6 or 7 buses available refuses to go from ground mode to air mode, Boeing would have thought about it. And if it is actually true, then the entire Boeing fleet, or at least the type, must be grounded and this bus issue fixed before we even let anybody fly those airplanes. The second is the debris part. See the modern turbofans that these aeroplane operate. They are there's something called graceful degradation. If the engine was to pick up a little bit of debris, it won't go to zero thrust immediately. And if the engine was to seize, some stones, something go through the fan and the turbine, it will create sound. We will see some smoke, and the engines will show external signs of distress. However, I must add here, these two gentlemen have far more experience than me. They could be right and they could be wrong. My narrow point is, at this stage, we should, I mean, the people who know, they should bring us out of this information vacuum quickly. We need to know for sure what happened, so that for the flying public, the faith in aviation is restored, and for the pilots and the operators, the faith in the system is restored.
So before I go back to Captain Randhwa and Captain Ranganathan, I want to ask you about Boeing. And I want to ask you about Boeing because the international headlines are filled with a kind of revisiting of the testimony by the Boeing CEO before the US Senate, where he spoke of conceding serious missteps. Before that, there have been whistleblower accounts on how Boeing runs its ship. Uh, are you concerned? Are you concerned that there's a larger discussion we need to have here that is beyond any one airline? Because as Captain Ranganathan said, the 787 is used by airlines across the world.
My
Barkha, I have been flying the 777 for a long time
Wow, wow,
now.
wow. Okay, go ahead, Captain Randhwa. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
And 777 have been flying since last 30 years, and 787s have been flying since last 15 years.
Yeah.
And Boeing has got a good track record. If you see from 1990 till today, how many accidents of Airbus have occurred vis-a-vis the Boeing aircraft? Boeing aircraft, of course, when the MAX was launched, we had 2 fatal accidents, and they were primarily attributed to that not enough training was imparted to the pilots for the system which they had fitted on the aircraft. And I would say Boeing has been a pioneer in manufacturing aircraft, and the systems are very rugged. And I have flown the 747s and the 777s quite a lot, and I only had one incident where the wing gear did not come down and we were landing at Frankfurt. That was the only incident we had. And the accident which we had last was in a 747-200 aircraft, where the ADI failed and it crashed at
So,
Bombay
so, so,
High.
so, you- so, so, so you're not concerned about all the debate around Boeing's safety record.
No,
I,
now there is if you see, the theories are pointing towards the electrical malfunctions on the
yeah,
787. Now you said there is a flap, there is a Hong Kong turn back. Now I don't
yes,
know why the Hong Kong turn back was there. I just learned it today.
yeah.
So these do need investigations into the electrical system of the aircraft. But nevertheless, we should not create a fear factor for the public not to fly, because this fear factor will not only be contained to 787, it will spread across different
Absolutely.
aircraft.
No, I agree. I completely agree. And also, we have to say that flying is still the safest mode of
Safest
transport.
means, correct.
Statistics show that there is much more chance of your dying on the road than any other way, and we all go out
Yes. Yes.
everywhere by road every day. So I just want to flag that again and again, because I've been having arguments with so many people in the last few days who've developed an irrational fear of flying, and it's
Correct.
understandable for a few days, but we have to get over this. I want to play out the survivors. I think we have the correct survivors' testimony now, the statement that you all were talking about, and then I'll come right back to Captain Ranganathan and all of you for final comments. Let's take a look.
थी टेक ऑफ हुई फ्लाइट, क्या हुआ था और अचानक से कैसे हादसा हुआ?
टेक ऑफ के बाद 1 मिनट के अंदर ही जब टेक ऑफ हुआ ना, तो सडनली 5-10 सेकंड कैसे लगा जैसे स्टक हो गया वो। बाद में से मेरे को लगा कि कुछ हुआ। बाद में प्लेन में लाइट ऑन हो गई, ग्रीन और वाइट। बाद में वो पता नहीं, वो प्लेन टेक ऑफ ज़्यादा करने के लिए वो रेस तो बोलते हैं क्या, रेस दिया होगा ऐसा कुछ, और सीधा स्पीड में ही घुस गया जहाँ वो क्या था वो
हॉस्टल था, एक हॉस्पिटल का।
हाँ, हॉस्टल में, और सब सामने सब हुआ।
ये जब फ्लाइट जब क्रैश हुई, उस समय हॉस्टल पे लैंड की थी, उसी समय आप बाहर निकले थे?
नहीं, क्योंकि आई थिंक मेरे को जब मैं जो साइड पे था ना, वो साइड हॉस्टल पे नहीं लैंड हुई थी। हॉस्टल के जो ग्राउंड फ्लोर है ना, जैसे नीचे, वहाँ लैंड हुई थी। तो मुझे दूसरे के बारे में मेरे को पता नहीं, लेकिन मैं जहाँ लैंड हुआ था ना, वो नीचे की साइड थी। तो जब वहाँ थोड़ा पेस भी था प्लेन के जब बाहर, तो जब जैसे मेरा डोर टूटा ना सब, तो मैंने देखा ना जब सामने कि थोड़ा इधर पेस है, मैं ट्राई कर सकता हूँ निकलने के लिए। तो मैंने ट्राई किया निकलने के लिए, तो फिर मैं निकल गया उधर, क्योंकि अपोजिट साइड पे थे ना, वो बिल्डिंग का वो था ना दीवार, तो उधर से कोई शायद नहीं निकल सका होगा, क्योंकि उधर पूरा उधर ही क्रैश हुआ था। मैं जो जहाँ था वहाँ ही थोड़ा पेस था। फिर भी मेरे पता नहीं मैं कैसे बचा हूँ, क्योंकि मेरे नज़र के सामने ही सब 2 एयर होस्टल वो अंकल आंटी सब उधर ही सब।
आप पैदल चल के आए वहाँ से निकल के?
हाँ, और थोड़ा जब आग लगी ना, मेरा लेफ्ट हैंड भी जल गया थोड़ा। फिर एम्बुलेंस मेरे को उठा लेके इधर आया हॉस्पिटल में।
So he's talking about the lights there, the greenish lights that he's describing. Now I want to bring in Captain Ranganathan. There's a question from one of our members of our community, Saurav Vashisht. Can a grainy CCTV video with field of depth, can we turn the audio of this off? It's very disturbing. Yeah. Can a grainy CCTV video where field of depth may be deceptive determine if the cloud of dust was indeed proximate to the plane's liftoff from the runway? Now, since you've sent us a kind of screen by screen, version of that CCTV video, if we can please have that on screen. I just wanted to read this out to you, Captain Ranganathan. Go ahead. Can't hear, sir.
Yeah.
Sorry, start again, sir. Yeah.
If we look at the frames from the point where the aircraft starts lifting off, now if you can make out that both the engines are working normal. Otherwise, if he had lost one engine before that, the captain would have rejected, because he's going to lift off only after V1 and VR. So the fact that the nose is rising means both engines were functioning at that point. And you don't see in the initial 1 or 2 frames, you don't see any dust. But it is only from the 3rd frame you see a lot of dust, and you will see more from after you see the aircraft swinging to the right. You'll see a lot of dust with the left engine alone. Now, that if you correlate that with the statement of the airport official that they normally take off with about 3,000 feet of runway left, but today they left it off at the end of the runway. They said it was almost the full length of the runway was used. Now, regarding the overweight, now every aircraft, when I say overweight, I'm not talking of fully loaded aircraft. The weight for that temperature and whatever weight is calculated and the length of runway. So if they've gone way beyond the point where they should have lifted off. It's a clear indication that there's been overloading on that aircraft. And
or it's a clear indication, that something was already malfunctioning in the aircraft. It doesn't have to be necessarily overloading, right?
yeah, but if it's a malfunction with the engines,
Yeah.
then he should have rejected because he's not reached the takeoff speed. The very fact that he's rotating the aircraft means that the acceleration has been normal up to that point. All the problem starts only from the time he rotates.
So you are in a way at the moment prima facie convinced of your theory that one engine goes out right after liftoff and the second engine possibly picks up debris, possibly, and then the second engine flames out. Captain Randhawa, you don't agree with this. What are your final comments, sir?
No, I do agree with him that the first engine has flamed out after the aircraft has got airborne.
Right.
But why has the aircraft taken almost the full length of the runway? It's not normal. It's just not normal.
Yeah.
That means the acceleration of the aircraft has been slow. Aircraft does not take off at the end of the runway. This is not a 707 or an old type of machine which consumes a lot of runway. So when this aircraft has taken off at the end and you see that the altitude is also very shallow. So with one engine failure and the gear not going up, the drag has increased, and subsequently, if there is malfunction in the fuel system or from the electrical system, which has caused a problem in the fuel system, has led to the second engine failure. And when I meant 250 feet, I meant AGL, above ground level, not because the airfield itself is about 225 feet.
Yeah, I want to ask both of you before I give Group Captain the last word. Some experts have spoken about the possibility of sabotage, right? We ruled out bird hits. That has been ruled out. We've ruled out sabotage of the kind that you place a bomb and it goes off because you would have seen that in the air. But some experts have spoken about cyber attacks targeted at the electricals. I don't know. I'm just asking the question. Is that something Group Captain Randhawa and Captain Mohan Ranganathan that you would at all be looking at? I'll start with you, Group Captain Randhawa.
I don't think so. A sabotage could have taken place because, if you see the sequence of events, what have happened, I do not feel it's a sabotage.
Captain Ranganathan?
You have all these conspiracy theorists after every crash.
Yeah.
You had that after the Malaysian MH370, hundreds of that the Americans.
But sir, we don't know the truth. You see, when you don't know something, theories do fill the vacuum, right? With Malaysian Airlines, you still don't know what the hell happened.
Like if it was a cyber attack, if you see the way the aircraft climbs out and he is stalling and then coming down, the very fact that the wings are level as he's stalling shows that the pilot is under control. It's not something that if it's a sabotage, if they have sort of shattered the flight control system or something with using electronic functions.
So both of you, sorry, both of you, you also rule out sabotage. So both of you agree on two things. Before I give Ajay Group Captain Ajay the last word, both of you agree that it doesn't look like sabotage. So that conspiracy theory is put to rest. Neither of you have brought up bird hits, so that's gone. Now we come to both of you do agree that neither engine eventually was functioning within these 32 seconds. What you disagree on is the cause for that. Would that be fair? So Captain Randhawa, in one line, if you had to say the reason for the electrical failure, what would that one line be?
The electrical failure mainly caused malfunction in the electronic engine control, and that has led to all these problems.
But why has that happened?
Electrical malfunction, as I told you, the electrical power which they drive is from permanent magnet alternators. So if there is though there is a lot of redundancy in the aircraft, in spite of that, in once in a million chance, sometimes a thing happens in aviation. So you cannot rule it out.
Yeah. Captain Ranganathan, the one in a million, the single engine on its own, the debris for the second engine also sounds like a unusual combination of events.
It's an unusual combination of events because of the long takeoff run. If it had been a normal takeoff area, it may not have happened. But the long takeoff run is what caused. Why they took such a long run is something which even the DFTR will show. Whether the engines were developing full thrust, whether there is some other reason. So the DFT and all the cockpit, the CVR is very important, because if I'm going to be using more runway than normal on a takeoff, I would definitely have commented on that. And that, in fact, there is a thing in even the Boeing. See, the V1 or where you reject a takeoff is under normal conditions. But in an extreme emergency, the captain can use his discretion to use any procedure to save the aircraft. So we cannot say that, oh, I am not touched V1, so I will continue. No, that's wrong, because a crash on the ground, rescue immediately is available and the damage will be less. So I think they probably had full thrust, and I really suspect overloading. But then with everything burnt out, I don't know whether the actual weight will be registered on the wheels thing on the computer. DFDR may not show that.
Got it. Group Captain, giving you the last word. Go ahead, sir. Ajay, Group Captain, Ajay Ahlawat. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I would only make it brief. I think it's time that we zoom out and shift focus from why this happened, because experts will tell us soon, to shift focus to preventing the next one. So if there is something that needs to be carried from this, we must be told quickly. If there is a flaw in the equipment, we need to fix it. If there's a flaw in the pilot's training, we need to fix it. If there's a flaw in how we measure weight of people and their luggage going in, then we need to fix it. So I think we should zoom out and now kind of oriented towards preventing the next one.
I will only say in the end that as we ask these questions and search for answers, we must not fearmonger. It is very important to not fearmonger. I took a flight on the morning of the crash on an Air India Airbus, as it happened, from New York to Delhi, which got diverted to Vienna because of the Israel strikes on Iran. The crew and the pilots were incredibly poised and professional. And the 787 is in deployment across airlines. So let's not do armchair fear-mongering. I think we would be doing ourselves, the industry, and those who lost their lives on board AI 171 a great disservice by doing that. Thank you so much to Captain Ranganathan, to Captain Randhwa, to Group Captain Ajay Ahlawat for helping us and teaching us a lot of things that are very complex to understand. What's known as the black box has been recovered. The cockpit voice recorder has also been recovered, and hopefully we should have some unspeculative answers to some of these questions very soon. Thank you, gentlemen. Take care. And to everybody, fear of flying is irrational. Flying is the safest mode of transport across all modes of transport. So do remember that. Thank you very much. Take care and see you soon. And before we go, I would like to leave our audience with personal accounts of grief that continue to pour in from Ahmedabad, where families are desperate to identify their loved ones. We leave you today with the account of an entire family wiped out. It was meant to be an Eid holiday, and it turned into a devastating tragedy. Thank you for watching, and we leave you with this heartbreaking account.
जावेद की मम्मी अभी किधर है, उनको पता है या वो किसके साथ है?
हमारे घर के 4 मेंबर है इसके अंदर, 2 छोटे बच्चे हैं, जावेद अली है, मरियम है। अगर ये बात बता देगी कि प्लेन में हो गया, वो जल गया, वो बर्दाश्त नहीं करेगी। बच्चे कहाँ है पूछेगी, वो बर्दाश्त नहीं करेगी। अब बता नहीं सकते। माँ है वो। लास्ट दिन जब जा रहा था, जब मैंने उसकी बेटी को देखा था कि वो मेरे गले मिलाया, मेरे बदन में पसीना लगा हुआ था, गर्मी है बॉम्बे में। मैं बोला लंदन की बच्ची है, बोले नहीं दादा से गले मिलो। तो फिर मैं गले मिला, बच्ची दादा बोल के फर्स्ट टाइम मिल रही है बच्ची, और दादा दादा करके लपेट रही है। हिम्मत नहीं हो रही हमारी कि हमको आज खबर ये नहीं आ जाए कि भाई इनके साथ कुछ हो गया तो उसके गुनहगार भी हम कहलाएंगे, तो वो भी दुनिया छोड़ के ना जाए। बस क्योंकि सबसे अटैचमेंट था उसका, सबसे अच्छा रहता था, सबको फोन करता था, सबसे बात करता था, हंसता था, लोगों की मदद करता था। लंदन से आने से पहले सबको फोन करके पूछता था कुछ चाहिए बोलो, कुछ चाहिए। सब उसके बारे में पूछ रहे, क्या बोलेंगे।
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.